And a very, very, very good morning to you. Karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe. It's raining cats and dogs out there, but don't worry. We'll be giving you some tips on relationship Wednesday, because we do this every single Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. just making sure that wewe na mpo wako mko salama, and you've been dating, alafu umeona ameachanga kasweta leo, ameacha tu viatu, and you're wondering, what's the plan? And that's what we're discussing today, moving in together and what's considered in all this. And we're asking you this morning, what do you consider in a relationship before you and your significant other decide to move in together? A number of people have already started talking to us. Sharks Z anasema relationship is just like a training of a horse, preparing a man to be used. Interesting. Peter Chow anasema respect, patience and love. What do you think? You can always call us live. Our phone numbers are open, 0795 045 864. Will be pale chini kwa screen. You can also text us on WhatsApp. I'll be taking a look at them. 0793 267 279. 0793 267 279. Just text us on WhatsApp real fast and tell us, what do you consider? What do you consider in a relationship before you and your significant other decide to move in? Let me introduce to you the right mans for this conversation. Utakuwa natupa some tips, what they think about all this. Nasim Katha, she's a psychologist. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Who is Nkatha apart from being a psychologist?
I'm a founder, I'm a CEO. I run a mental health organization called HUGS. Hardiness and Earth Great Success.
Okay.
So yeah.
Right. It stops there, but there's so many other.
There's so many other, but professionally it stops there.
It stops there. Fantastic. And also Dr. Julius Kimani, he's a counselor.
Yes.
Lecturer.
Yes, I'm a counselor. I'm also in the education sector, as well as a pastor.
Oh,
yes.
Great. Aye. Now, as I do every single Wednesday, I pick up a proverb from around the world and mostly Africa to help us understand how our conversation venye itakuwa. Na leo, before the break, rather before we went on air, I had my director and crew helping me pronounce this in Kikuyu, but then I'll just say it as it is in English. It is a Kikuyu proverb, and I'd love both of you to tell me how what it means for you.
Okay.
So it says, the house of a person we love is never far. The house of a person we love is never far. Daktari, unaiangalia, una smile ni kama you've had it.
But I understand that one. I understand
how do you say it in the native language? Mwedwa or something kama hiyo.
I think it is nyoba ya mwedwa. Dekora hiyo. But now there is a way Kikuyu sayings put it, but now I'm interpreting it.
I'm being told, kwa mwedwa?
Kwa mwedwa?
Gotire irema, kitu kama hiyo.
Exactly. For the true way is, to your lover's place, there are no mountains. You don't see any challenge along that way. I remember one time when I was dating my wife, and I had borrowed my dad's pickup to impress her. And she happens now to tell me to drop her, and I didn't have enough fuel. And of course she lives in Kabete, na kuna tumlima. So you can imagine now the strategies to arrive, especially coming back now. It was all prayer, because milima mafree, you put free, then you allow it to flow, una switch off to make sure that you arrive, because the fuel haijatosha. But when you arrive home, you find it is a very nice experience. You are like, that was it was a good experience. Then you think about it and you're like, it's actually enjoyable. So that's what it simply means, that you can pay any price for you to go to see the one you love. It's very enjoyable.
Nkatha, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
I'd agree with Daktari. When you're in love, no mountain seems too big for you to cross. It becomes easy. Things that you found are a little bit challenging for you at that particular moment, it comes easy to you. So yeah, I feel like technically what he said.
Do you think it's practical now, even as we, because it really resonates to our conversation, you know, what's really considered when you decide to move in together? The fact that we're having quite a number of urbanization. When you take a look at a decade ago and the yesteryears comparing to right now, couples right now are definitely doing things, you know, differently, and people moving in a whole different way. First of all, do you agree the whole bit of moving in together even before you guys even, you know, get married and all that?
Now, am I supposed to answer professionally or personally?
you as Nkatha.
Personally, okay, it makes sense because again, you need to, I know it will sound off, but you need to sample the goods that you're getting. You know, like by that I mean, you need to know the characters of this person. When you're dating, we're always trying to hide. We're trying to seem perfect and everything. But when you start living together, you'll realize maybe anafinya toothpaste in a funny way.
Nika toothpaste na kuact sana.
No, I'm just giving an example. Or maybe anacha towels venye nataka, so you have to keep on, you know, picking up after him and everything. You can't know that when you're dating. But when you're moving together, you can start seeing it and you're like, yeah, nah, this is not it for me. Or, okay, I'm willing to, you know, sustain this and move forward. But then again, how long should the moving in be? Because nowadays, you move in together 1 year, 2 years down the line, a baby comes in, alafu tumekuwa comfortable. Hakuna story ya kwenda kwa wazazi, so now we're technically married, but we're not married. I don't know if that makes sense. So there has to be a limit to it. For how long is this moving in together? What is the intention behind moving in together? What am I expecting out of it? Because again, we get into these situations with certain expectations that we don't communicate. And I normally say, expectations are the mother of disappointment. The minute I haven't spoken expectations, he doesn't know what I want, I'll end up disappointed if my expectations are not met.
Very true. Daktari, as we talk about now this kind of considerations, even before you get to ile stage here, ati ameanza sasa kuleta, ameacha kaskafa na kuambia, by the way, niliacha nini yangu hapo, watch sijui niliacha, some very minor things that you won't even notice unless, by the way, aliacha hii, si atakujia, and then next time they pile up. You come to later realize, ile wardrobe yako yote, half ni yake, yote ameacha hapo vitu. How long should this couple have dated before they reach to this point?
I think the period for dating depends on the maturity of the couple. But I usually say, on a personal level, I would suggest that at least you get to date not less than 1 year. Because if you do things in a hurry, then you'll discover, like she's saying, there are so many things you'll discover in between that were not working. And I think when we talk about relationships, they are very intentional. A lot of people move in thinking that because this guy was maybe looks like he has the finances together, like he looks like he's a nice guy, he pays his bills, that when you move in now, you'll expect him to continue the same way. I think that's a big assumption. Some ladies sometimes assume, because it is usually the ladies that move in. Of course, nowadays we are finding a boy child pia ameanza kumove in, and I invite you, and then after a while you find maybe he's thrown out because he's told you're not paying the rent. But most of the times it's the ladies who move in, and I believe quite a number of ladies assume that now they are having a good relationship, they have been seeing each other for a while, then it would be okay if she's invited over once in a while in a weekend, she spends maybe a weekend, then next time maybe it's a kalonga holiday, anakaa pale maybe another 1 week, and I assume now the guy has decided to marry. And that sometimes is ending up being a shocking experience for many of them, because somebody leaves, somebody comes and stays there, maybe goes back and discovers that this person's excitement was just for you to be seen there over the weekend as something to say that I own that. Then after a while, if you try to come in and move in a longer time, the friction begins. So I say it has to be, moving in has to be very intentional. And of course, the current generation, sometimes they are ignoring the fact that there is something called parental blessings. Because somebody moves in, then I think you were discussing before we got in, you find a lady moves in, then she begins to demand 1 year, 2 years later, tuende ukone wazazi. Now the guy is looking and wondering, Sasa, I have to start paying for a dowry. Looking at it, it's like you have something that was given on loan. You know, vitu za loan inakuwa ngumu kulipa. So unapata jamaa anaambiwa aende ukalipe. And the lady begins to create chaos saying, if you don't see our parents, I don't know, I will not stay around here. And the guy was like, you first moved in here. You brought yourself here, now you're demanding that I go. And a lot of people, a lot of ladies are there where they are now disgruntled and saying, this guy has never gone to our place.
So Nkatha, this parental blessings, I mean, how far do they also go? Do you come to the parents and say, this is ndiule mwenye nilimention ile siku? But then do you have to again tell the parents that we are planning to move in together? I mean, obviously they'll have their own reservations. How do you approach this kind of conversation with your parents before you decide to actually move in?
Like what he said, intentionality. So before you even go to the parents, are both of you on the same, page? Like he said, we might be in different pages, in different books, different libraries. You get, like, our values, our expectations are not. But then again, I like what he said. I don't understand how men can be so clueless that umeshina mtu for 2 years. Na unadhani tu ni vibes. Like, what happens after, the 2 years? Unataka kumrudisha kwa streets aende wapi? No mekana those 2 years. So I like what he said because it gives the assumption that men have tunnel vision, like kani vibes, focus hapo kwa vibes. Maybe the lady ashapanga marriage, naming the kids and everything. So when that conversation comes of going to see the parents, the guy acts shocked. Yet again, you've stayed with this chick for 2 years.
But does the lady communicate what she wants?
No, that's the thing. That's where we are today in terms of expectations. For me, I've realized mostly our generation, most of the time we get into relationship not knowing what we really want at the end of it, but because the vibes are vibing, we just get into it. 2 years down the line unapata kumbe niko in a marriage, you get. Then that's why I say communicating expectations is very important, so that the other person can see, are these needs I can meet, or will it be too much for me or something like that. So communication is very important. And comprehensive communication at that. Not just communication nyonge tu, but does the person understand me and see where I'm coming from when I'm having this conversation with them?
Let me just sample a few comments on Facebook. Dennis Ferraz says, respect, commitment and trust. Love is delulu, or rather delusional, as he puts it. Omondi engineer, or rather ENGR, Ivan says, kumbe kuna watu kwa relationships. Kumbe kuna watu kwa relationships, by the way. Who else here? It's Avaye, I just got in, no consideration and pap kwa ndoa, lakini ilisumbua. And the profile is a gentleman, actually. And even again, also a reminder for the callers to throw in all those questions. Maybe you have, they'll be answering them. Kada here as well as Daktari. Or rather, you're actually in that kind of a situationship yenye he or she moved in. Na unashanga, how will we survive this? Ilifikaje hapa? I'd also throw in all those opinions and thoughts that you have. 0795 045 864 is the number to call in live. So yanasema, and pap kwa ndoa, lakini ilisumbua. How does it come to, and mostly even the psychology of a man. You will go to be earlier. There's a way a man will plan himself. He'll pay the bills and everything. He'll have kupali to bachelor life yake tu vizuri. Kwa nyumba, he's set everything vizuri and all that. And he knows every responsibility, it's ni yeye. Asipofanya vyombo asipoosha zitamgoja tu hapo until June. But then when the lady moves in, how does this man change? Do all this responsibility, do they still continue for the man? Will he still continue paying the bills and being the same man that he was before the lady moved in?
I think you have she has brought up an issue about expectations. And sometimes we say the best way, the best indicator on whether you are ready to move in. Number one, are you good communicators? Are you communicating very clearly on what both of you want? because there's a lot of assumptions in moving in, a lot of assumptions. And some ladies will assume because he has been inviting me over, he has been doing some things for me, then this guy maybe will continue and be my husband, which could be an assumption. And the guy could actually be just treating her nice because he's a nice person. So there has to be a very clear expectation and communication that has been developed between them. Number two,
before you actually, because you've said communication, and before you move on to out of communication, does this couple sit down and say, we're moving in. This is a period that we need to move in to stay together before, as we also think about marriage and blah, 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 and all that. Is that always on the table? Yeah, this is the length of time to stay together.
You know, one thing I've discovered about, I don't know ladies, but one thing I've discovered about men, they know who they want to marry. And they know when they want to get married. And so you could be looking at all the signs you're saying, this guy is treating me well, this guy has introduced me to his sisters, to even the parents, the buddies and all those things. But if he has not popped at that question, I will tell you, he is not yet made up his mind. And that is where now ladies make a mistake and they begin to put in some things. And later you hear a guy, I never wanted to get married. So I will usually tell the ladies, if they are listening, wait until that guy makes a clear move and tells you, I'm interested in having you as my wife. Because there guys have got two things. They can be able to operate seeing you as a girlfriend and seeing the wife. And as long as you have not entered into his medulla as a wife, utakaa tu. You can even be staying in that house and he has never married you. That's why you hear guys later, they say, this was not the girl I wanted to marry. But because you moved in and you got 3 kids, so he's just like, wacha tu tuendelee, lakini haikuwa ni wewe. So there has to be proper communication. If lady you're moving in, have sat with that guy and get a clear indication that this person wants to be with you for a lifetime. Because there are guys who are just like me, natakaya 5 years. And that is why I say guidance is also very key. Number 2, are you true to self? You know, somebody who is ready to move in, ni watu they have stopped acting. You know, when you are dating, there is a lot of Hollywood. Ladies will swing from left to right, and the gentlemen za zingine atoaga base zingine hapo hujaisikia. Alafu kwa sababu he's trying to impress, then you realize you go home and he has a soprano. So if you're not comfortable with your soprano, then I think it's still a challenge that's telling you you're not ready to move in. There are people who are moving in because of money. They are like bills. Wewe unakaa.
And actually a couple of comments there that says money.
Exactly. You find a guy anakaa anasema, hii hao nalipa 50. Na dema anakaa anasema mayangu nalipa 40. So they are like, you know, it would be good if we come in together and we pay. So they're actually coming in because of financial load to make it easy, but in the real sense, they are not getting married. It is a financial partnership. So when things get settled properly, where things are now working well, suddenly the guy discovers I can actually live alone. And so it's very important for that communication to be clear. The intention, is it financial? Also to be very clear. Number 3, you have to wait, especially for the ladies, wait. And if he's not speaking, unajua kuna moves zingine mtu kusema naenda Kisumu for 2 years. Utaona huyo jamaa amepanic anasema, guys, siwezi penda huyu apotelee Kisumu. I would rather now propose. But if he's not proposing, akwambia, enda Kisumu. Ujue hapo jamaa yuko.
Help us understand hii logic ya madem ya kuacha kakiatu moja hapo. You know, one bit by bit. And then later on, a couple of months, that you realize, hey, you have quite a lot of things around here. Tuwali kuja sleep over the weekend, and they have quite a number of the toothbrush iko, quite a number of the hair products and all that. Hata zimeshinda zenye zangu zenye ziko hapo. Help us understand that logic.
So technically kumark territory. That's what you mean.
So that's what it is.
I think it is. And then also, I feel like what he said, for a man, they need to be very intentional. But then again, tunafaa kuwapatia grace period ya how long? Unapata umekana mtu 10 years, haja make any intentions, you're growing old and everything.
10 years is...
It is. You'll find people have stayed together even 10 years and the guy has not technically or intentionally made the intention to officially propose or go see the parents or something like that, but mko tu sawa. And then when you bring the whole story of marriage, inakaa ni kama uko delusional, yet you've been with this person for so long. So daktari, how long should we give you that grace period of now putting out your intention out there?
I usually say there has to be, as ladies, you have to be wise. There are questions you can ask strategically and definitely you get answers. Because, sometimes you need to ask this person, where is this relationship headed? And if you cannot be able to answer, that means that's already a red flag.
Let's be fair to these ladies, though. This man knows that this question is coming. He's maybe thought about it. He's probably afraid of having this conversation. Am I wrong?
No, there are people who are afraid. You see, there are two. Let me tell you, if a lady has moved in, jamana juaga hapa nimewin. So there is nothing like now being afraid of asking, where is this relationship headed on? Is this a marriage? Is this something that we are sticking together just for a few years, then we part ways? So I think there is a time when you realize now you've made that mistake, we say. You've already moved in and you stayed there for 1 month, 2 months, and you're already starting to share things. He's coming with a shopping. He's even taking you places. And now you're still afraid to ask the question, where is this relationship headed? I think it is very important. And don't take this answer, kwani unaona tunaelekea wapi? That is an evasive thing.
Plus, there's always the whole, let's see how it goes. What's the problem or popping up that? Because, some would argue, if we are saying that watch it for like, let's say 5 years, we're moving in for marriage, you've probably sealed fate here, the future. So let's just see how things go, your pamoja, and then we'll judge after a couple of, ni kama audit, after 6 months, okay, fine. This is how things are going. We can change plans. After a year, we can change plans. What's the problem with, let's see how things go?
First of all, that is one of the biggest red flags out there. If you're communicating with someone and then they tell you, acha tuone venye inaenda, siko sure, let's see how it goes. That's a very big red flag, because 1 year, 2 years down the line, anaza change mind na kuambia, by the way, si mimi nikuambia sikuwa sure kwenye nataka iende. So decide and I'm deciding to move on with something else, or I'm not ready for marriage, or marriage is not for me. But on the other end, where usha amua, I want marriage, I want babies, I want the whole fairy tale and everything. So if someone tells you they're not sure, take it as a big red flag. And also, I feel like people also need to understand their values. When I talk about values, I mean not the dictionary definition of values, but what values really mean to you. I'll give you an example. If you and I are talking about values and I'm saying respect, and you're also talking about respect, maybe for you respect is if someone respects you enough, they'll tell you the bitter truth, And for me, respect is I want someone to hide the truth, protect me from the bitter truth, not hurt my feelings and everything. So you see, respect is the same, but in a different meaning. So do you really understand your values? And when I talk about values, you also need to understand your negotiables, your non-negotiables, what you're okay with, what you can compromise on, and everything. So when someone tells you, siko sure, let's see where this goes, and maybe your value is, I need to know the direction I'm taking and everything. So you can gauge and see, is this among my negotiables? Am I able to handle this? Can I really wait a year or 2 for him to make up his mind, yet mine is already made up? Or do I need to move on? You get? So once you understand that aspect, I feel like self-awareness is a very important key aspect to have as a individual before you even have these conversations with someone else. Because now you can gauge and see, okay, I can handle this. So akisema, let's wait and see where it goes, I can pop up the question 1 year later. And if it's still, let's see where it goes, then mina jitoa. But then again, if you're not sure what your values are, what you want and everything, then utakuwa tu na move na the flow. And then now you'll start having these things of men are, you know, trash and whatnot. But then again, you decided to stick around. So what made you stick around for that long? So I feel like at times we blame people so much over things that we can genuinely decide on ourselves and put ourselves in that situation and remove ourselves in it if it's not serving us the way we want them to serve us.
Daktari, you definitely read the Bible a lot.
Yes.
Universe Manga, seek and you shall find. And this mostly happens when, let's say, he or she has moved in and you had, as Nkatha was saying, you use this opportunity to fanyele due diligence. You know, when you're dating Patanuko, he or she is well dressed and everything, well mannered, but they're a different lot when they've just woken up. What's the danger of, you know, seek and you shall find in such kind of ukianza kufanya due diligence yako, even as a counselor, what's the whole, you know, danger of that?
You know, the thing is, I believe as human beings we are the most intelligent things, and what most of us are afraid is asking the hard questions. You find somebody, whether it's a man or a lady, you don't want to ask questions like, do you have babies outside there? And if somebody is saying, I am not sure or I don't know, that means you need actually to tell him, now go find out. That means there could be issues. Because I've had people who will say, yes, I prayed and I got this, then I discovered later. So you have a responsibility. It's like when you're buying a plot. We actually, as human beings, today you find guys are doing more due diligence when you're buying a plot or a car than when you are getting a wife. Later you discover nakwambia nilikuwa na watoto watano. Then you are like, I mean, how do you hide 5 kids? The thing is, there has to be a deliberate, intentional asking of the relevant questions. What is your financial status?
Does moving in help in doing this due diligence? Because I'm pretty sure from both of you, your backgrounds, psychologists as well as a counselor, there's something you call masking. You know, somewhere where someone puts on a different kind of a face, but then that also has an expiry date. How long will you do this? You know, masking of all that. But before that, does this moving in together help with due diligence?
Actually, okay, there are people who discover too late. You know, there is nothing as bad as you've moved in your person for 2 years. Then you discover either the man has 2 kids outside there, or the lady probably was married, but she had not told you. It hurts you more. And you see, in life, there are things that when you get into and you get wounded, it becomes very hard to recover. I would rather I ask the hard questions and she tells me, I have 2 kids. Are you ready to take me with my 2 kids? Rather than discovering later. Or this guy comes and says, I used to be a thug, but nili change. You know, at least you're moving with a guy who has a capability of maybe doing some crazy things. And also asking friends. You know, nowadays the challenge we have is that we don't even want to ask friends. If somebody, if it's a lady, a girlfriend comes and tells her, hey, be careful about that jama. The first thing is like, uya nitaki mazuri. You're already angry. If a guy, you're told by some of your peers, be careful about that chick. We know her from 1, 2, 3 things. Instead of wanting to find out more and discovering for yourself the truth, you're already like, these guys don't want me to get married. We have failed to use our friends and our families to do some of the important investigations that were supposed to be done. And so you eventually get in, and you see relationship, some of the people who are acting out here, we have seen people get murdered because a chick moved in and you are excited about her, but this person was not even intended to get married. But when you see her with another person later, you want to kill her. And so that's why I'm saying it is important. The person who kills has the ability to kill before you even marry. So it is good to know their temperament early. Ask people, because sometimes they behave in a funny way. But when we keep quiet and we assume that the person you are staying with will bring out what they are in maybe 2 years, it may never happen. There are guys who can hide for 10 years. Later you discover they were not the people you married. And that time you have wasted so much time. So I would say, me, I'm totally not for this thing of moving in. You take your time. Investigate.
Remember, you could always call in live 0795045864. I don't know if you have a live caller. Okay, if you have a live caller, call us live. Ask us all those questions that you have on the same. Nkadha, I mean, you can take a whole 10 years and you don't really know this person. Even for this bit, the first few months in Akunga fiti, you know, but then largely it's the whole masking. So let's say the first 3 months, mnaenda out, ile mnaenda mnashikana mnaenda kukatiwa mboga ya skuma, but mmeshikana mkono mkiendea hii mboga, mnarudi and all that. I mean, for the first 3 months, it's always amazing. But the whole masking for this couple, it definitely has an expiry date.
It does.
Tell us about that. I mean, how long can someone really mask their behaviors when they've moved in?
First of all, I feel like every relationship, it's a risk you're taking, you know? You don't know this person, you know, you don't know them well. They've grown up in a very totally different, you know, family upbringing, values and all that. So it is a risk that you're taking. But then again, you also need to weigh your own assessment, like a SWOT analysis for yourself. In this risk that I'm partaking, how much can I handle? How much can I not handle? So in regards to the masking, sidhani mtu anaweza pretend for a whole 10 years without you knowing, you know. And I feel like instinctively you'll know there's something off. Maybe the way, the tone they use, you know, towards you, some of the little things they do and then come apologize later, the way they talk to, you know, people that are below them and all that. It can give you an assumption of, okay, then I need to pay more attention on this and that. I don't believe someone can truly hide their true character for that long. No, so it's, I feel like people need to have the whole aspect of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, there's always 4 key concepts to it. Self-awareness, relationship management, and one that I'm really emphasize on is social awareness.
Hold that thought there. Let's pick this call. Wafula from Kiminini. Habari asubuhi Wafula.
Hello.
Yes, habari asubuhi Wafula. Unatusikia, kama unatusikia vizuri unaweza mute sauti ya TV, alafu uongee kwa sauti vizuri tukusikie, utuulize maswali.
Nzuri sana.
Yes,
Hello.
Yes, endelea Wafula.
Yeah, sometimes in this thing, you, as a man, you plan so well, you come in with a lady whom you really love, you even offer to get her a job, and so on and so forth. You can even, to an extent, even move from one place to the other so that you can settle, only to realize later that you people are not rhyming, or you are not sharing the same views and values. What do you handle that? I mean, how do you handle that?
So, any other questions ama wajibu hiyo kwanza?
Anaweza jibu hiyo mwanzo, alafu ya pili, what happens if you move on, then later on, like the way she said that you find that this lady, baadaye anaanza kukwambia eti wazazi wangu kama sio utaenda kwetu, sasa hatutaoana. How do you handle that?
Sawa, asante sana Wafula. Kutoka Kiminini, sijui kama kunaendelea kunyesha huko, lakini wasalimie watu wa Kiminini. Interesting bits he's raising there. I'll start with you, Daktari. Hiyo maneno ya the kind of values. I realize ni kama I'm share the same values and all that.
You know, what I would advise, number one, before you even move in, it's very important to discuss some of the visions that you have. Because this is a long term. You find, like, for example, we have seen guys who have, maybe a lady has gotten married to an army officer, or maybe a police officer, or a night guard. And they liked the person, but they never considered the career they are in. That this career may take them away. and having a clear discussion on how you're going to handle those days when you're apart and how you're going to communicate, for example, is very important. You lay things on the table, because any successful relationship requires you see like what you see ahead. And so what he's going through is somebody who they probably thought when they liked each other, but they never have the same interests. And that's why I say, in a relationship, you have to find somebody who has at least some common interest with you. Because if you don't have a common interest, then what will ever bring you together? It will only be you two, but nothing else. And you see, we as men, we need people who will encourage us in our vision. As a lady, you'll need a man who will affirm you and tell you, we are working on this together. So I think what somebody like Wafula needs to do is to, in a very sober way, not in an angry way, call back your lady on the table. Just tell her, I want to know, what are your expectations for this marriage? Listen her out 100%. Then find out as a man where in all those expectations, what can I at least do one of those things? You know, marriage is about compromise.
Yeah.
Then you also tell her, give me an opportunity to express also on the table, what are some of the things that I expected we'll do together. Then now you look at the most common. Then you say, can we start on this one? Assuming maybe both of you like education. You say, is it possible for us to do something about education? And we further. The moment you find a common interest, you have already created something that is will bond you together.
Right.
So I think that is what he needs to do for now.
So his next question is about Maswala meeting parents, and even as you also take up on that, remember, you can always call in live. There are quite a number of callers calling in. As key up hivi kwa masikio, 0795045864 is the number to call in. Throw in all those questions zenye uko nazo. Counselor psychologist tutakuwa na kujibu. And in case kuko na experience unaweza taka kushare na sisi, utuambie, yes, mimi niko hapa naishi na mpo wangu, we've been cohabitating for quite a while. How do we move on from that? Ofula was asking about maswala ya wazazi. I think what you had raised earlier. How do you deal in such a situation?
I feel like communication, venye tu amesema. Mkianza kuishi pamoja, mnaitana kwa meza and then communicate these things. And when I say communication, I emphasize on comprehensive communication. We're not just communicating for the sake of saying, I mentioned this, but we're communicating to understand where you're coming from. Right now, you've realized we intermarry a lot. There are certain cultures that maybe my side of the family have and your side of the family don't have and everything. So when I talk about comprehensive communication, it's that understanding where each and everyone is coming from and seeing now the common denominator there, what you can handle, what you can't handle and everything. So kama nimekuja kwako nikakwambia kwetu siwezi move in na mtu kama haja make intentions kwa wazazi and everything, and that's now our culture, you know, or my part of my religion and everything. So for you, do you feel like you can go meet them before we live together or something like that? So once you have that common understanding, then it becomes easy when it comes to going to meet the parents, because again, you can't say you're married to someone or you're staying with someone na wazazi wajui nyumbani yet unaishi na mtoto wao. So at the end of the day, lazima wazazi waende waone. So when are we going to do this? So I feel that's where now that conversation needs to come in terms of when, and is it before, is it after? But technically, lazima wazazi waone. Because like he said, hizo blessings wazazi are very important.
I think more questions for you. Someone says, hi TV47, my girlfriend used to work in Voi, akatoka kazi kaisha, akakuja kuishi na mimi hapa Nairobi. It's been 3 months now. What do I do?
Take over. She has decided. You see, that's the thing. You have to be so clear with a person on when you intend to have is when you intend to have to live with them. But you see, you have already showed them over when they were having a job. You would call them and they would come over the weekend. Okay. Why would you not expect her to come and move in now that she doesn't have a job, and you used probably even to support her? Yeah. And that is the challenge that we are having now, because the moment you can allow that girl to move in before you've married her, then when she loses her job, you don't expect her to go away. she will say, this is my guy. And so, me, I think the best thing, either kama hutaki kumuoa, tafadhali wacha kumwestia time. Kama we ni girlfriend tu, mwambie, by the way, I think this was not meant to be this way. It was not supposed to be meant to be a marriage. Because she's not moving in. Ye kwa kichwa yako, unajua hivyo ndio wanaume tunafikiriaga. Tunaonanga girlfriend. Yeah. Lakini yeye anaona hazi. Yeye ameona hazi. So yeye amemove kwa hazi. Yeye ameona huyu ni mzee. Huyu ni mzee. Lakini the jamaa anasema my girlfriend has moved in. So you either put things on the table, you say me, I'm not intending to get married. Now kama ni hivyo, jua there will be drama, there could be anger, there could be anything, but I usually say wacha kuestia dem time.
Gather for them, it's been 3 months. So this means they've had now, let's say, 3 months to figure things out. But the first month, maybe they didn't have time to figure out. Unajua kuna kugana ile, unaishi Kasarani, na nia nakaa pale Zimmerman, so unakaa tu hapa, haukai mbali, come. But then now the circumstances where, let's say someone's job and it was a whole long distance. That means if they lose their job, they don't really have money to pay rent and all that. So as the boyfriend there, or maybe even the girlfriend, you say, fine, we come over. You don't really have the time to think about all these things and have the whole communication breakdown. So you start to do the communication after I'm moving. What's the holdout danger of all that? So,
of course, it can backfire or it can go pro the girl because, like you said, it's a takeover because for her, she's already made up her mind. Because I don't believe kuna msichana anaweza kaa kwa nyumba ya mtu for 3 months without knowing that me hapa sasa ndio nitakuwa naita kwangu or something like that. But I feel like a communication really needs to be had between both of them. And according to how he phrased that question, it means he's not really ready for a serious thing in terms of marriage and everything. And I feel like he needs to, it's not fair for the girl and it's not fair for him too. So they need to have that conversation. So that kama haiwezi work, msichana rudi tu kwa wazazi hadi aendewe. You get? So I believe communication is something that both of them need to have and an intentional conversation rather to that. Yeah.
Right. Let me take a look at other comments here. As you also call us live 0795 045 864. Bernard Kipkebut says love and respect. Hizo zingine zitakuja baadaye. Interesting. Respect and all that is really, Kento says, so long as she's breathing. Wow. LC Black says, finally a lady, story ya kumove-in labda ni kuwatch Can You Stay, and this now really revolves around that. So far tumepata a caller from Kiminini, and I'd really love comments as ladies on, because I mean you're saying 3/4 and a huge percentage are the ladies who are moving in, because now it would be rare. For a man, what will make a man move into a lady's place?
Number one is she has more money. That's the key factor. It's very hard for a guy to move into a lady's house unless the lady is older and she has money. Otherwise, most men are very uncomfortable moving to a territory where they are not in control. And I have seen situations whereby you find a guy moved in. You see, especially when ladies get angry. Maybe an argument comes up and she's the one who is paying rent. Most likely she will voice it. Hii hata si nyumba yako. And the moment as a man you feel like umeambiwa si territory yako, you feel lost. So if you see a guy moving to a lady's house, the condition is that she's either older or she has more money. And the challenge for that is that when chaos comes, when utaibishwa. And you see most men, they don't want to be ashamed. So you become like a tame cat in that house. You step very carefully. You don't want to unsettle things. And so my encouragement would be, if you are a guy and you maybe the lady is telling you, mnaangalia unaweza moa na kwambia me I can marry you even if you have a lesser job. Please, if she can not move to your small house, or you look for one common house where both of you can chip in. You are chipping in maybe 10% and she's chipping in 90%. Lakini ni mulichagua mkiwa wawili. Otherwise ukimove kwa hiyo territory ingine, you will have a challenge. I have cancelled guys who have moved in, and because they have invested. You see, men will move in and they start investing. They start putting a few things. Now, when you start saying, I own the seats, I own the TV, nakwambia nyumba si yako. Now, the moment you hear nyumba si yako, your dominion is lost. So my suggestion as a man, I come on a skiza. If you're seriously intending to get married to that lady, don't move to her house. Tafuta another house where both of you can get into, and there at least own the door. You know, at least the door is very important. Uko na fungu hiyo mlango, nasema huku ni ukihama at least unaweza toka na mlango uende naye useme hii nyumba. Unajua landlords wakitaa mtu asilale ndani ya nyumba atoaga mlango. So at least you can say I paid for this house and I also replaced this door. It's just a suggestion. But the thing is, that's just to answer that question. But nowadays you're seeing a lot of guys who are doing that.
Yeah.
Mtu anaangalia naona kwani. But let me tell you, you as a man, you lose dignity. There is a dignity in having control, even if it's your small house. And most ladies, hata kama kuna pesa, they still want to feel the manliness in a person who comes and says, huku ni kwangu. Lakini wanasema kiti ni yangu, na anasema huku ni kwangu.
Hapa ni kwangu. Hapa. Gather, practically speaking, vitu ziko kwa ground. You'd find the lady well established, she has a job, she has set up her house and everything, and the guy as well. But then now kwa hiyo conversation ya moving in, they probably now have it. They have the whole communication as you're suggesting. But then they don't really come to agree ati we kuja kwangu, because the ladies feel like hapana, me I've already set myself. I like how things, and this really transcends more than ile how they've set up to how they do their things, how they wake up. If you stay alone, you always have a way of how you do things from the morning all the way to the evening. And the guy says the same. How do these two solve all that?
So I feel like Dr. and I are from two different generations.
Oh yes.
Because for him, kuna ile pride of a man, and I agree it's there, but I feel like if a man wants to be a husband, a stay-at-home husband and everything, then well and good. I personally believe women are natural submitters, in the right circumstances, in the right environment. You get, inaweza kuwa mimi ndio breadwinner kwa your family, but I'm still submitting to my husband in the sense that I'm cooking, I'm doing everything for them if the environment is clean and fine, like if he's giving me that conducive environment to naturally submit. But then again, unaishi kwangu and bado nataka kunipatia ile kiburia, you get, like, I'm not saying that he needs to submit, yes, but I'm saying give me that environment to submit to you as much as I'm the one, providing and everything. I don't know if that makes sense.
So be a man in that house.
Be a man in that house, yes, as much as, bringing in money and everything. And I'll submit naturally, you get. But then again, don't tell me you're going to be a, stay-at-home husband. And yet again, there are certain things you're expecting more about me. You get, like, we need to meet each other katikati, and I'll naturally give in, you get.
Because of time, allow me to take your final thoughts. A sentence, maybe, an advice kwa mtu anafikiria ku get into this situation. I'm out to maybe already in this kind of situation. I'll start with Nkatha. You could keep it a sentence.
Know yourself first before you get into any relationship. Understand yourself, understand your values, and don't be scared to communicate your expectations, because at least that will show you if this is a road that I want to take or not. Fantastic. So yeah, self-awareness.
Counselor.
As for me, I'll say don't move in if you are experiencing anxiety and pressure. Don't move in if it is just about finances, coming together to put together finances. Don't move in if you have trust issues. Don't move in if you don't have good conflict resolutions. And don't move in just because of the society. Wait.
Thank you. Dr. Julius Kimani, counselor, as well as Nasim Katha, psychologist. Asanteni sana for the wise nuggets. I hope back at home